Hi everyone, Andy here, and welcome back to the AI Breakdown. Yesterday was OpenAI's Dev Day 2025, and Sam Altman and the team dropped some big announcements, and whilst there was no big model upgrades, the sheer volume of what they shipped is still kind of staggering. Before we dive into the details, let me give you a sense of scale here. OpenAI now has 4 million developers building on their platform. That number has doubled in the past 2 years. They've got 800 million weekly ChatGPT users, and their API is processing 6 billion tokens per minute. Just to put that in perspective, 2 years ago that number was 300 million tokens per minute. That's a 20-fold increase in API usage. So yeah, OpenAI isn't just growing, they're operating at a completely different scale to almost anyone else in this space. Today, I'm going to walk you through the key announcements from Dev Day, share my take on what actually matters, and help you figure out which of these tools might be worth your attention. So let's dive in. First up is something OpenAI is calling apps within ChatGPT. This is probably the most consumer-facing announcement from the event, though it's got real implications for developers too. The idea is simple but powerful. You can now access third-party services directly inside ChatGPT without ever leaving the interface. Think Spotify, Zillow, Canva, Expedia. Instead of ChatGPT just giving you information or suggestions, it can now actually do things on these platforms. So let's say you want to create a playlist. ChatGPT is pretty decent at suggesting songs or putting together themed playlists, but now, with the Spotify app integration, it can go ahead and create that playlist in your actual Spotify account. You don't need to copy and paste anything or switch apps. It's the same thing with property search. Ask ChatGPT about homes in a specific area, and it can pull live data from Zillow, complete with prices, photos, and neighborhood details. Or if you need to knock together a quick graphic for social media, you can work with Canva right there in the chat interface. Now here's where it gets interesting from a developer perspective. OpenAI has released what they're calling the Apps SDK, which is built on something called MCP. This is basically an open standard that lets developers build these integrations and eventually publish them for everyone to use. What I find clever about this approach is that OpenAI is positioning ChatGPT not just as a chatbot, but as a platform, and they want to be the place where you do everything, not just the place where you ask questions. This is smart positioning, but it's also risky. We've seen this playbook before with platforms like Facebook and others who tried to keep users inside their walled gardens. It works brilliantly when the platform is growing and dominant, but users can get frustrated if integrations feel clunky or limited compared to just using the native apps. The real test will be how seamless and useful these integrations actually are, and whether developers embrace the SDK. If the experience is smooth and the adoption is strong, this could genuinely change how people interact with ChatGPT. But if it feels like a half-baked feature, people will just keep switching between apps like they always have. Now this is the one that got developers really excited. OpenAI announced AgentKit, which is essentially a complete platform for building AI agents without needing to write a single line of code. Think of it like N8N or Zapier, but specifically designed for orchestrating AI agents. You get a visual interface where you can drag and drop different components, set up conditional logic, and build out entire agent workflows. Sam Altman positioned this as a way to take agents from prototype to production with way less friction. And honestly, that's exactly what the market needs right now. Because while everyone's been talking about AI agents for the past year or so, actually building reliable production-ready agents has been quite difficult. AgentKit includes a few key pieces. There's Agent Builder, which is basically a visual workflow creator. You can map out your agent's logic, define different paths based on conditions, and tie in various tools and capabilities. Then there's ChatKit, which gives you an embeddable chat interface that you can customize and drop into your own applications. They've also included what they call guardrails, which are safety screening tools for both inputs and outputs. This is crucial because one of the biggest challenges with the agents is making sure they don't go off the rails and do something unexpected or harmful. And finally, there's an evaluation system built right in. You can create datasets, trace what your agent is doing, and even have the system automatically optimize your prompts based on performance. Now here's where I think this gets really interesting. OpenAI is clearly trying to own the entire agent development lifecycle. They want you to prototype in AgentKit, refine in AgentKit, deploy through their infrastructure, and monitor everything using their tools. From a business perspective, this makes total sense. The more they can embed themselves into your development workflow, the stickier their platform becomes. But from a developer perspective, you've got to think carefully about lock-in. If you build your entire agent infrastructure on OpenAI's tools, switching to another platform later becomes significantly harder. That said, I think for most teams, the productivity gains will outweigh the lock-in concerns. Building agents from scratch can be hard. If AgentKit can genuinely simplify that process, it's probably worth the trade-off for most use cases. I'm planning to spend some time with the AgentKit, so I'll share more detailed thoughts once I've actually built something with it. Now we get to Sora 2, OpenAI's video generation model, which is now available through the API. This is huge for anyone building applications that need to generate video content. Sora 2 can create realistic video clips from text prompts or images, and it includes synchronized audio. We're talking richly detailed, dynamic scenes with a proper understanding of 3D space and motion. The model can generate clips that maintain scene continuity and realistic physics. From a technical perspective, accessing this through the API is straightforward. You pick your model, there's Sora 2 and Sora 2 Pro. You pass in your prompt, and then you pull for the status of the generation because obviously generating video takes time. The obvious use cases are marketing content, social media, product demos, educational videos, anywhere you need quick video content without the time and cost of traditional video production. But here's what I'm curious about. How good is it really? Because we've seen impressive demos before that don't quite live up to expectations when you start using them at scale. Can it maintain consistency across multiple generated clips? How well does it handle specific brand guidelines or visual styles? These are the questions I want answers to, and I suspect we'll start seeing real-world reviews and case studies over the coming weeks as developers get their hands on it. Although there weren't any big model upgrades announced, GPT-5 Pro is now available through the API. This is OpenAI's most powerful model, and they're positioning it as the absolute top tier for when you need maximum intelligence and capability. The context window is massive. You can pass in up to 400,000 tokens of input, and it can generate up to 272,000 tokens of output. For context, that's enough to handle entire code bases or very long documents. But let's talk about the pricing, because this is where it gets eye-watering. It's $15 per million input tokens and $120 per million output tokens. That's expensive relative to other models. And to put that in perspective, regular GPT-5 costs $1.25 per million input tokens and $10 per million output tokens. So, GPT-5 Pro is roughly 12 times more expensive. This pricing positions GPT-5 Pro as a model you use very selectively. This isn't for general chatbot applications or high-volume processing. This is for when you absolutely need the best possible performance on complex reasoning tasks where the cost is justified by the value of getting the right answer. Think high-stakes decision support, complex code generation, detailed research analysis. Use cases where you're willing to pay a premium because the alternative is much more expensive human time or the cost of getting it wrong is high. For most applications, regular GPT-5 or even GPT-5 Mini will probably be more than sufficient. But having GPT-5 Pro available is valuable for those edge cases where you need maximum capability. OpenAI also announced GPT Real-Time Mini, which is a cheaper version of their real-time voice API. It's 70% cheaper than the standard real-time API, which makes it significantly more accessible for building voice applications. If you're building anything with voice interfaces, conversational AI, phone systems, or interactive voice experiences, this is worth paying attention to. The real-time API lets you capture all those natural intonations, understand tone, handle interruptions properly, all the things that make voice interactions feel natural rather than robotic. The fact that they have made it 70% cheaper means this technology is now viable for a much wider range of applications. Previously, the cost might have been prohibitive for anything except high-value use cases. Now, you could realistically build voice interfaces for customer support, productivity tools, or accessibility features. They also announced DALL-E 1 Mini, which is a more affordable version of their image generation model. Again, same pattern. Take the existing technology, make it cheaper, open it up to more use cases. I think this is a smart strategy from OpenAI. The top-tier models are where they showcase capability and push the boundaries, but the mini versions are where they drive volume and adoption. And ultimately, getting millions of developers building on your platform is more valuable than having a handful of customers paying premium prices. Finally, OpenAI announced a bunch of updates to Codex, which is their AI coding assistant. You can now access Codex through Slack, which is a nice quality of life improvement for teams that live in Slack. They've also released a Codex SDK, which lets you build custom agents on top of Codex. The example they gave was building your own version of something like Lovable or Bolt, those vibe coding app builder tools. Basically, if you want to create a custom coding agent that's tailored to your specific workflow or tech stack, you can now do that with the Codex SDK, and they've added usage analytics, so you can actually see how your team is using Codex and where it's providing the most value. This is one of those features that seems small, but is actually really important for teams trying to measure ROI on AI tools. So that's the rundown of OpenAI's Dev Day announcements. Apps and ChatGPT, AgentKit for building agents, Sora 2 API access, GPT-5 Pro for maximum capability, cheaper voice and image models, and Codex improvements. Looking at all of this together, a few themes emerge. First, OpenAI is clearly trying to build a complete developer ecosystem. They don't just want to provide models, they want to provide the entire stack for building, deploying, and monetizing AI applications. Second, they're pursuing a strategy of offering different tiers at different price points. You've got your premium models for when you need maximum capability, and you've got your mini models for when you need to keep costs down. This gives developers flexibility to choose the right tool for each specific use case. Third, they're making big bets on agents and on keeping users inside ChatGPT. They clearly believe the future is about AI systems that can actually do things, not just chat. And they want ChatGPT to be the interface where all of that happens. Now, is all of this going to work? I think some of it will land better than others. AgentKit and the model improvements feel like solid, valuable additions. Apps within ChatGPT could be transformative if the integrations are good, but it could also feel gimmicky if they're not. And the pricing on GPT-5 Pro is going to limit its adoption to very specific use cases, which is probably intentional, but it also means most developers won't be able to justify using it. The bigger question is whether OpenAI can maintain its lead, because while they're shipping all of this, Anthropic is pushing Claude forward, Google has Gemini, and there are increasingly capable open source alternatives. The AI market is moving incredibly fast, and what works today might be obsolete in 6 months. So OpenAI needs to keep shipping, keep improving, and keep giving developers reasons to build on their platform rather than someone else's. That's the breakdown. Thanks for listening, and catch you next time.